Hey, welcome to episode 2 of InBetweenClouds. Today we'll continue our journey with hybrid cloud scenarios, and up next is Azure Web Apps with VNET integration. On top of that, we already connected the VNET with a site-to-site VPN tunnel to our on-premise Azure Stack environment. This can be looked back in the last recording of InBetweenClouds. So let's get started. If we take a look at where we left off last week with our site-to-site VPN scenario with Azure and Azure Stack, we have our Azure environment and we still have our Azure Stack environment. So if we go to the resource groups, we select hybrid cloud. And there is our environment that we deployed last week. So what we need to do now is, actually I already installed on the MustVM001 and SQL installation. Let me show you here. What I want to do is I want to deploy in Azure a web application. Then I want to connect this web application using VNet integration to connect it to our Azure VNet, which has also access to our Azure Stack virtual network. And then we can connect our web app to consume data from our on-premise Azure Stack database. So we have this SQL ready here. It's the IP address is 10.1.0.5 and it's the, let me show you, MustVM001. So if we go back to our portal, we see here the MustVM001, and what we need to do is connect to our Azure environment. Before you want to connect your web app to your virtual network, you need to have a point-to-site configuration. This is what I already done manually because I've tested my setup before I started to record it. So I have added a VPN address pool which is not overlapping the address pool that I have in my VNet in Azure, or overlapping with a VNet that I have running in my Azure Stack environment. So that's very important to consider. So in my case, I just took 192.168.100.0/24 network. And now what I can do is I can click on add. And what I will do is I will choose a web app. Web app. And we see here the web application. I click on create. I need to specify a name. So let's get this in between clouds. I'm putting it in the same resource group that I have all the other deployments done. Need to create a new plan. I will give this a name. I call this in between clouds. I want to have it in West Europe. There we go. And if you need a VNet integration, the least plan you need to select in order to get it to work is have a minimum S1. So I'll choose the S1 for now. Click on OK. I'm not choosing to collect any app inside, so I hit create. So now it's creating this web application for me in my Azure environment. And if I'm refreshing, it won't take very long, I believe. So let's take a look. So the service plan is already there. Okay, here we go. It's finished. So let's go back to our hybrid cloud resource group. And there we have our InBetweenClouds web app. And if I'm going to browse to this URL, you will see the default page for an Azure web app. Okay, let's take a look. And what we need to do now is click on networking and click on setup, because we choose for VNet integration. Now it's not configured, and I will click on setup. So now you will see that only one VNet is connected. The requirements to connect your web app into a virtual network is your virtual network needs to have a gateway deployed. It needs to have a point-to-site configuration attached, and when that both conditions are met, we can integrate it in our web app environment. So let's see if this finished. Let's switch blades for a second to see. Here we go. Added virtual network to web app. Connected. And you might see that what is happening in the background is my virtual network is actually connecting using a point-to-site address to the environment. You see here the deleted because I deployed yesterday the same environment. So I should hit Ctrl F5 in order to get the proper data. This is one of those bugs in the portal where it thinks the resource is already deleted, but I just redeployed it. So let's take a look again, and here we go. Now it's working. So it's loading the data. Here you see the point-to-site address space 192.168.100 and the end address. And you also notice that it also takes into consideration the site-to-site address space. So what I need to do now is, because I added this 192.168.100 subnet into my environment, I need to make the Azure Stack environment aware of this subnet. Otherwise, when the SQL server will respond to the web server, they'll route it to a black hole because they don't know where to route the traffic to. So what I need to do is, in my Azure Stack environment, I will select the local gateway, which is representing my Azure VPN gateway. So now I have set, when I deployed this environment, that I will only have the 10.31.0.0/16 space living in Azure. What I need to do is I need to tell my VPN environment that there's a new subnet living over there. It's the 192.168.100/24. So I need to save this configuration, and once it is updated, I will leave it running in the background. We can look at our web app. The network was saved, and let's open Visual Studio. You will see that I've created a new web application with InBetweenClouds demo as the title. And what I will do is, when I hit F5, I will start local debugging of this web application. And what I've actually done is create a simple registration portal in this web app, which is actually default in Visual Studio when you deploy an MVC web application. So I have a register button here. I click on register. Will load up, and in the background the SQL database on my local machine is being created. So if I just choose, for example, a@a.com and choose a password and register, I will be able to log in. And when I go to this local DB database, tables, and here I have some users, view data. There is my a@a.com, which I just created, and the other one, which I already created yesterday, is the old one. So what I would like to do is, I would like to upload this website into my web app, and I would like this web app to use my SQL database in my Azure Stack environment. So let's continue and go back to Visual Studio. We select the solution and we will publish this into Azure. So I will choose for Microsoft Azure App Service. I'm here connected to my enterprise subscription. Here we have the hybrid cloud, InBetweenClouds. Hit OK. And what I need to do is, when I click next, I need to change my SQL connection string. So what I need to do is I need to add my remote environment in Azure Stack. You see here the 10.1.0.5 connection string. I need to put it there, and I select this checkbox, use this connection string at runtime, so it will update the destination web.config file once the application is started in Azure. So I hit next, and I'll publish the web app. What I will do in the meantime as well is I will go to my database server, and I will create an empty database InBetweenClouds. Here we go. So now you will see it has no tables, it's empty. My deployment is still running, and once this is done, it will open up the portal page for me automatically, and let's try then to log in. I'll pause the video until the deployment is finished. Okay, it's finished, so it just opened the portal page. While it's loading, it's taking a bit of time. There we go. So I will choose register, and then I need to specify again my name, and I select a password. So let's call this demo at InBetweenClouds.com. Select the password and hit register. And if everything went fine, all the routing went fine, this table is now created in the background in the database, and then this data is being stored in the database in my Azure Stack environment. And there we go. So let's take a look what's happened in the SQL Server. If I refresh this database, you see here my users, and let's click on select top 1000 rows, and there we have our demo InBetweenClouds.com user. So our data is stored in our on-premise Azure Stack environment. I've connected an Azure VNET integration using VPN to my Azure Stack environment, and I used a VNET integration from my web app service to my Azure network. So that was it for today. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment behind. I would like to thank you for viewing and hope to see you next time. Thank you.